Namastu ma Vishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So we saw that based on inquiry, with the help of Upanishad, which is a means of knowledge, we come to understand that Atma is what the truth of the whole universe. And our Atma is the truth of the whole. If you just did this inquiry, which is, I am not the body and the mind, and if you just came to this fact that I am this awareness or consciousness, it is no big deal. The very fact that it is the truth of Ishvara, that's what makes it what? Something which exists before time. That exists which is the truth of time, which is the truth of space, which is the truth of every object. If it was not there, and if you just take yourself to be this Atma, and if you don't inquire about Ishvara, then you still are left with the question, you certainly did not create the universe. So that means, where did the universe come from? If you construe that Ishvara is different from you, the awareness, then what is bigger? So that means there are so many, without Ishvara the whole thing is falling apart. You can't have anything. It leads to nothing. Ishvara is such a critical part of this whole inquiry. And because awareness is truth of Ishvara, that's why it is what? Before the time. Otherwise, how is it before the time? So that means it is something which is the holding place. Now, here the inquiry started with what? Ishvara. And the entire universe was now understood to be not anything other than Ishvara. Then we looked into the truth of Ishvara, which is consciousness. So wherever there is Ishvara, there has to be truth of Ishvara. And then, so here you find where you, little you is, what we showed are two more realities. Wherever there is a form, there is Ishvara, which makes that form what is. And that's exactly where the truth of Ishvara, which is awareness, is. So that's why in every form you should find that. And this is what happens. In any form you will go beyond. In a sentient form you will find your little intelligence, then you will find Ishvara, which makes your intelligence what it is, and you will find awareness. In sentient things you will not find little intelligence, because it doesn't have subtle, right? But you will find the intelligence which makes that object what it is, and you will find what? Awareness. So therefore, you find awareness in and through everything. Yeah. So this is the method of inquiry, and by inquiring into Ishvara, the question is, where did this universe come from? And the universe certainly did not come from you. So therefore, by inquiring into Ishvara, you came to know what? Your own self. And when that happened, then what happens? If the inquiry is complete, and if every piece of Upanishad is understood exactly as it is meant to be understood, you are not creating another reality through your thought processes. See, your thought process is the one which takes you away from reality. So that means the Upanishad words are revealed, but by the time you receive them, you created a meaning which does not exist. And the minute you have done that, what happens is, you build on your reality and it takes you away from the truth. So that's why one has to be extremely alert and understand each step of the logic and understand how the whole vision is totally coherent. Now if that is done, then what we call, see, any knowledge, as I told you, we can say it is complete when what is said is exactly what is understood. There is no gap. So this is also the case in school, right? Carl was a teacher. And what you were teaching in school?
Oh, it was about politics.
Politics. Okay. So politics is a little bit relative.
Take linguistic.
Linguistic, yeah, okay. So now imagine you're teaching linguistic. And then at the end of the teaching of the course, you take the exam. And you take the exam, what are you testing in the exam?
If the thoughts are
whether they have understood.
Whether they have understood, exactly. Because when you want to convey something, you have an intention, right? So now by asking question, you are trying to figure out what the other person has understood. If the person has understood exactly as you wanted to convey, then what the person gets 100%. Now if the person has, it's not like either you understand totally or you don't understand anything, right? So there are levels of understanding. So this is why you have 100 marks, you have 90 marks, you have 80, you have 70, you have 50, you have 30, you have fail, you have all kinds. So that means there are levels of understanding. That means the person who totally understands what you want to convey, and you ask that question from any given standpoint, and the person is able to figure out and answer it correctly, means you are testing the person's understanding of that given subject matter. Yeah. So now, so there is total alignment between what we only understand through thoughts. So that is why in Sanskrit we say that every knowledge is what we call vritti gnana. Vritti gnana means it is when anybody explains anything, the thoughts are created in your mind. That is the mechanism through which you understand anything. When the thought that is created in your mind corresponds to what the person intends to convey, that is called knowledge. When it is created, it's partly understood but not totally understood, we call it partially true, right? Sometimes it is erroneous, and so that means they thought that the person is conveying something and you understand something different. So that means there are all levels of understanding. So here, when we say removing ignorance about Vedanta is not a small thing. So many people say, oh yeah, I understand. Hey, you understand you have to understand that understanding means that the entire, every aspect of the teaching is exactly in the place where it has to be. And its connection with everything else also has to be exactly in the place. There cannot be just even little deviation. Little deviation means you haven't understood. So that means in order for that to happen, when that happens, the person is what we call free. Only then the person is free. Until then the person is in the process of knowing. So that is in the process of knowing, wonderful, because you are every time you are removing some ignorance and you are aligning a little bit, aligning a little bit, aligning a little bit, and that's whole process. And the minute you align here, then hopefully its connection with something else also will become clear. So this is how the whole process of knowing takes place. Once that process is completely over, this person is described as Apta Kamaha. Apta Kamaha means that Kama is what? Desires. All the desires are completed. Now, how is it that does it mean that the person thinks about BMW and BMW appears, and the person thinks of a Rolls Royce and the Rolls Royce appears? No. It means behind every pursuit of yours, your real pursuit is that of what? You want to find yourself as fulfilled. That is your real pursuit. Whether you are going for artha or you are going for kama, or you are going for dharma, your ultimate interest is in finding fulfillment. That is the real pursuit. Now, through other pursuits, when you are searching for fulfillment, it will never come. It will always leave you high and dry. Because the whole search is based on wrong understanding of realities. This is why it is not supposed to give you happiness. So therefore, you will make a statement that I am fulfilled when the whole equation is completely understood. And why? Where does the fulfillment come from? From the nature of Atma, which is full. You can't say that I understand I am full, but I am feeling miserable. That means you haven't understood. So that means the fulfillment has to come by one's own glory, by one's own understanding of one's reality. This is not imagination. This is coming from understanding. So I don't know, somebody was saying, who was saying, Surya was saying, I don't know, that when there is, when you are connected to reality, there is what? Kind of calmness, kind of tranquility, which cannot be compared to any other tranquility. There is some kind of a deep relaxation. And that is not like through a technique. We are not talking about relaxation through breathing or relaxation through just sitting quietly. We are not talking about that. Relaxation comes from one's understanding. All pieces of the puzzles are put together. Relax.
It's a mind dissolution completely.
Mind is resolved. Mind is resolved doesn't mean that the mind stops working. Please understand. Mind is resolved, that means the confusion from which we operate is totally gone. So just as our orientation that I am individual and you are other individual is so natural. The wise person has the completely natural understanding of what all that is here is one, and everything is manifestation of one reality. And within those manifestations there are differences. There is not that everything is just one. There are differences, and whatever needs to be done needs to be done. But there is no confusion. That one doesn't get overwhelmed by anything. One has the capacity to deal with things as they are. Because the placement of everything is in an accurate place. And therefore, and the understanding of oneself is also not totally here. Otherwise what happens? We keep going back to our old story. We continue to operate as this individual. That means our rewriting of the story is not complete. So therefore, this is what we call the wise person. Apta kamaha means there is fulfillment. And for anybody else, there can be what? Partial fulfillment. We are also not talking about psychologically. See, most of the people mistake Vedanta. They use Vedanta as a psychology. And they ask you to be content. That is not in terms of your attitude. And then it says that you be content, and that is what, then you are wise. Being content is not wisdom. Anybody can just say, you can tell yourself, oh, everything is not under my control. I do what I do. And you learn to be what? Content. This is just a practical person. A wise person's contentment doesn't come from that. Wise person's contentment comes from where? Understanding, exactly. It comes from, and that there is a whole platform where the entire show is going on. I am the platform, I am not a character in the show. And even if you understand that, will you start playing your character not well? Tell me. An actor understands that I am not that given king or a beggar. If the actor understands I am not the beggar, and while doing the acting of begging, if the person is like, oh, I'm not the beggar, so I'll just ask, oh yeah, can you give me some money? and not act out, oh please can you give me, what will happen to this beggar?
You will get nothing.
Huh?
You will get nothing.
He'll get poor. Absolutely. So that means nobody will go and watch his show. So that means we mistake that. We think that the role acting has to change. A role acting can remain the same. What has to change is your understanding of who you are. That gives the freedom.
The fact that you know that you're acting.
Exactly. The fact that you know that you're acting gives you the freedom. Not that your acting has to be indifferent. This is where people make a mistake. As though in your transaction you have to be all the time just exactly the same and just have total contentment at all times. Everything. Hey, that is not what it is. Then you will make your life into such an artificial life. You will be disconnected to realities. Ask any person who studied psychology, hey, different situations do bring about what? Different emotions. It has to.
So it is possible that a wise man or woman kills herself?
Huh?
Could
No.
this happen?
No, the killing oneself is a very extreme. I mean, I don't know.
Because I heard such examples
Mm.
where I was wondering if this person really realized or not.
Few of them are like a woman that's a woman was going into the fire. She was honored as a guru.
No, children, I mean, I don't know. I
This,
can't.
this is
But,
not, this
no.
you will never do because you accept and what is happening in your
See, this is why your connection with Ishvara is very important, no? That this body actually is not, you are not the author of this body, who are given this body. You are not the owner of this body. Unless there are, but in every rule, see, in one good thing about the whole Vedic tradition is, there is nothing in this relative world which is absolute. So there are rules and then there are always exceptions. So as a rule, you have no right, but there could be exceptions where for example, you are just a vegetable. You have some chronic disease and you are not able to operate. You are just not able to function. And many people are looking after you and you are just lying like a vegetable. See, those are extreme circumstances in which case there are some exceptions. But in a normal level, there is no, it's not like, yeah, okay, now I've understood, so I'll just end my life. That doesn't happen.
If they have really understood,
Yeah.
if they enter their life, the jiva is again going to take rebirth.
No.
So the cycle will not end. What I am trying to say is by
Yes.
killing, they are not gaining anything if they have
Yeah.
really understood. Because they have killed themselves, let's say. Their life ends. It doesn't mean the cycle has ended.
See, one thing here it is said, now wait, now all this is something which is very important to understand properly. The minute if you have really understood, right, the real understanding is where you put your eye. You have to put your eye at the right place. And it's not like sometimes in Vedanta class you put your eye at the so-called right place, which you think is the right place, and when you come out, you continue to be this individual. That means there is a long way to go to have that integration.
In fact, one of the confusions with Vedanta is people say, reality is this is Maya, and there is no point living at the time.
Absolutely.
So actually this is not Maya.
Exactly.
So the understanding of Maya as being the reality of this is also real.
Exactly.
That is the distinction.
So where there is mithya, there exactly where there is satyam.
Exactly.
Don't look for satyam somewhere else.
That is where people get disillusioned and saying that this is life is useless, it's all Maya.
Yeah. See, this is where all loose talking. We are not talking about loose talking. This is the serious Vedanta class. So therefore, this is true that we are not. So therefore, one thing, the person is apta kamaha. The person is a fulfilled person. What happens to this person is that there is no karma for this person anymore. So this jiva and all doesn't exist for wise person. So that means, what is the jiva? Jiva is an entity Yeah, that entity is something which is identified with what? Sthula, Sukshma and Karana Sharira due to ignorance. What is Sthula Sharira? The body, physical body. What is Sukshma Sharira? The subtle body. And what is Karana Sharira? All the causal body which has all your karmas in the account. So as long as we don't understand our true nature as Brahman, we can't but continue as what? The individual. The individual means my basis of interaction with the world is what? I am this much and I want this from the world. That is the basis of everybody's interaction. Even if you are a very nice person, you still want the politician to be different. That is the basis of your interaction. You want to fix up these poor people. You still want the world to be the way you want it to be. Still the same me versus the world. Me versus the world has 3 versions, by the way. Me versus the world, please understand. Me versus the world is, the one person me versus the world is what? Grab. I take this, I take this, I take this, and it's never enough. That is one person, me versus the world. The second person who is me versus the world is always complaining. Always complaining, this politician is no good, that person is horrible, these systems are awful. So that means the more intelligent you are, you're constantly what?
Crying and cribbing.
Crying and cribbing, and in the facade of being intellectual. That is also, it seems like you're an intelligent person, you are a thinking person, but it is still the position of me versus the world. The third person, which is me versus the world, is, even not only even people who are complaining, but people who want to do good. So that means there are poor people out there, there are all these kind of underprivileged people, and you want to fix them. And as such, please understand, there is nothing wrong. It's a noble person who is not only thinking about grabbing, but is contributing to somebody's well-being. But what makes the person me versus the world is when those beneficiaries don't see the value of what you are doing, or if the governments or the communities don't approve of what you are doing, then you are what? Dissatisfied with them. You're constantly complaining. So that means that is also, you are different from the grabber. You want to, in the name of doing good, you still have demands on the world and you want the world to behave as you see what is right for them. You want to fix it. So that is another version of me versus the world. The third version, which is unfortunately the spiritual version of me versus the world, is what? The world is Maya. The world is Mithya. I don't have to be interested in the world and I am leaving the world because world has nothing to offer me. Me versus the world.
Detachment.
The so-called detachment is bunkum. It is again creating a whole big divide between you, the lovely spiritual one, and the world being the material world. It's nonsense. So that means the real spirituality is understanding the whole universe as what? One. That is the vision of oneness. There is no me versus anything. Everything is expression of one. There is no something versus. You are not fighting with the world. You are not fighting to fix the world. And you understand everything as one. That one which gives the platform for everything to as though happen and itself is free. That is the reality. So that means if you really understand this vision, you will play your parts really well, and at the same time you will be what? Totally free. totally free because what you understand to be the realities. The burdens of life don't touch you anymore. Fulfilled person, the equation is solved. You operate totally from clarity. There is no confusion in that person. So this is what we call aptakamaha. When that happens, when your eye has really shifted from an individual to awareness, in awareness there is no karma. Awareness doesn't perform any karma. This is what you were asking akarta. Akarta means non-doer. It's not like you as an individual, this is a problem. You have to be non-doer. These are all silly ideas. Everything that Upanishads tell you to be the nature of Atma, you want to retain your Atma here and you want to be not a doer. That's not what is being said. Awareness does never perform any action. Vivarta upadana karanam. Vivarta upadana karanam, it has never undergone any change to become the world. So what has undergone a change to become the world? Ishvara, Upadhi. All this has to be properly understood. So this is why this awareness is non-doer. The minute you recognize that I am not the individual, I am awareness which has never performed any action, neither in the past, nor in the present, nor in the future, then the whole account, which is what your karma, which are in your karana sharira, they all what? Disintegrate. Why do they disintegrate? Not because you have exhausted karmas and exhausted vasanas. No. They disintegrate because you understand your true nature. Not to be not an individual, but the cause of the whole universe. That's when the entire account is disintegrated. That is what we call moksha. That means there is no coming back for this person. So jiva goes, because jiva is what? The individuality, which is the sustenance of that jiva is ignorance. If you try to reduce your karma in your account, by the time you exhaust a few, you will also acquire new ones. So that way you can never exhaust karma. You can only close the account by knowledge. So this is what is said, that this person, if the person has really understood the reality totally clearly, then there is what we call moksha for the person. Moksha means no longer coming back as an individual with a given what karma in your account. Over. That over, many people are afraid because they say, oh my God, at least now I'm able to come and I'm able to do things and all. If I don't come, then what? What's the fun? Here at least I can express myself through hands, legs, my mind, everything. So that, because they don't understand that moksha does not mean extinction. Moksha means you remain as what? That awareness, which is the only thing which is a non-changing reality upon which the dance of the universe is going on. And the entire dance of the universe is dependent upon this non-changing reality. And that non-changing reality, without which the whole thing cannot happen, and itself is free from everything. So you are that. When you are that, you don't need to come with connection with one entity. Means what? You have birth, you have death, you have old age, you have pains, you have aches. You can't avoid it. So even if you want fulfillment, there is no fulfillment in that coming as an entity. So that ends. So this is what is said. The person is totally... Yes?
Can I have a last question? The proof that you reached moksha, you only can say it by yourself, no?
Yeah, wonderful.
Because
wonderful question. Yeah, wonderful question. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. I only think
Yeah.
it comes out in the last moment, or when I'm confronted with a difficult situation, then it comes out how much the knowledge is stable.
So very good. See, very good. When you have clarity with reference to this reality, it's not like, yeah, now I think I understand. It's not like that. You understand it totally. It's like as clear as daylight. You don't have to think about anything. It's just clear. You operate out of that clarity. It's effortless. So therefore, and anybody who asks you any questions, you are not, what, yeah, this is true, I didn't think about that. That doesn't happen. Because you have understood, this is why Upanishads talk about the same reality from so many different points. So if you have made slight mistake in understanding when you listen to one Upanishad, when the second Upanishad talks about it from a different perspective, you are able to reconcile everything. You don't say, oh my God, I didn't think about that. Or no matter how this vision is presented, or you don't make mistakes. So that is what there is a total clarity. But the only person who knows whether it's really clear or not is it's true. It's oneself. But the other person, let's say now for example, if somebody knows, yeah, and so that happens to many people. So many people go to Swamiji and tell Swamiji, oh Swamiji, I have understood. Now, it's true that only that person knows whether you've understood or not. But Swamiji is very intelligent. He'll ask a few questions. And then the answer, Swamiji will say, you have a long way to go. So that means in the answer, what the person reveals, if the person is convinced oneself that I have understood, but in the, if you are able to answer questions, tricky questions properly, then you have understood. Otherwise what? You have that superficial understanding. So many times Swamiji used to make jokes. He was really a funny character. So he used to really he had great sense of humor. So he used to say, people come to me very seriously and they say, Swamiji, I've understood it, yeah, but I'm having difficulty in just retaining the vision. He said, hey, if you have difficulty in retaining the vision, it's not because you haven't understood it. So that means it's not a question, it's not a memory based. It's not like you have to mug up and then you have to put it out. Understanding means it's as clear as daylight. I don't have to think, hey, yeah, this sun is shining in front of me. Do I have to think? No. It's all totally clear. So that means total clarity. So only you know it's true, but another wise person can figure out. If the person wants to really figure out, they can figure out where you are. They can figure out by asking a few questions. And because see, if you understand properly, then you will be able to answer all the questions. That you can figure out. But the only one wise person can figure out. A non-wise person can't figure out. You can always pretend to be a wise person, but an other person may be convinced. But one wise. So this is why it's very interesting. In many times in Upanishads, it's written, the wise people call him a Pandita. That means, it's not a normal person, anybody can pass as a Pandita. But a wise person can make you, see you as a person of clarity. That means you really have a clarity. So this is how.
And then you are in a, it's not a state, I know, then you are in a position where you can't fall back.
No, there is no falling back because the whole see, how will you fall back? From where will you fall back? Tell me. If I am the limitless Atma, where will I fall? Tell me. Now you think, what is this falling back?
Identification again with the body or with the mind.
Yeah.
This is,
So that means you haven't understood. No?
yes. It's not 100% clarity or something like this.
So
It
that
happens
means,
often.
yeah. See, that means you are kind of, see Carl, what unfortunately happens is, we are so, it's almost like we keep telling ourselves, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. We use this Vedanta at such a superficial level. It's a very complex equation and we simplify it. Simplify it to a very simplistic level and then we keep repeating it. And by repeating it, you convince yourself, oh, I have understood I'm not the body and mind. Hey, it's not about that. So therefore, then you say, oh my God, now I'm again getting identified with the body and mind. So that's why the whole equation has to be understood. This awareness that is in you is not just simple little awareness, it is the truth of Ishvara. And when that is understood, there is no more falling back. In that kind of a little simple thing, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, I keep reminding myself, and then now I'm getting identified with the body again. That's not knowledge. So this is why this is, Aptakamaha is a bit thick.
So you mean we started with the idea you have to change the story you are telling yourself.
Yes.
And this is not enough to tell you another story. You have really to integrate this. No?
Yeah, that's true. See, this story is not only you're not the body and you're not the mind. The story is a very big story. The story is where is the universe coming from. The story is what is the nature of Ishvara. The story is what is the truth of Ishvara. What is my relationship with Ishvara. It's the whole story. The story is not about just me not being a given body and mind.
The stories about the plants, the trees, the stones.
Yeah, it's about everything. It's about manifestation, non-manifestation, inner things, the sentient things. That's a level of equation we are talking about. So that means the whole story has to be rewritten about the world, about the cause of the universe, about who you are, your relationship with everything. Everything has to be rewritten. Rewritten means totally understood. And not only understood totally, but one has to operate from there also. So that means it takes time.
So it's not only the question of understanding.
Yes.
It's
In fact, Carl, I would say it slightly differently. See, only understanding means that understanding is one thing and then everything else is a practice.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, at every little understanding that you do, there has to be a corresponding shift in terms of your actions. Every step, when the understanding, you never go from 0 understanding to 100 understanding. You go step by step. At every step, when you make that understanding, there has to be a corresponding shift in your behavior, in your attitudes, in your actions, and then you move one step further. Then there has to be a corresponding shift in your behaviors, your attitude. And only when you go step by step and integrate your behavior at every level, then the final understanding takes
And
place.
this is the difference to maybe scientific understanding. There's only understanding, I don't have to integrate it.
Yes, exactly.
Not this what I mean.
Absolutely. That's what makes Vedanta a difficult thing to
Even
understand.
scientific understanding, there is a corresponding, I just was thinking about it.
Yeah.
When a scientist after 10 years of research comes out with an understanding, just at a level, and when he explains to you, you say, I have understood. The scientist has 10 years, he has looked at all the other possibilities where it has not fallen in place, and then he has come to the understanding. His understanding is much, much deeper than an understanding at the face level. You're getting the difference? He had looked at all the failure possibilities before he came to the final possibility. So it's like what he said, looking at all the contradictions and coming to the final is also one way of looking at the way of understanding.
See, even after 30 years, I can't say that I know refrigeration, I'm an expert. I still am a student. Means learning, we have made 15,000 plants, machineries, they work everywhere, but still I feel that I don't know, I still need to learn much more about what we've been doing 30 years. Even engineering, science, it's all slowly shifting. And the age will go ahead, lot of again confusions, again solve, confusions, solve.
See, yeah, that is true. But there is a slight difference between anything else in the world. You can't know 100%.
Yes.
You can't know 100% because everything actually finally resolves in Ishvara.
And it keeps changing.
And it keeps changing. Whereas this is the only thing that you can know totally. Because it's a non-changing reality.
That's true.
So therefore, here it is not like, there is, in your case, there is no end actually. But here there is an end. The end is when the whole equation is clear. But exactly, the person who is hopefully teaching has looked at it in a much larger, so even if you understand, let's say, all the logic that the person is saying, what is behind and all the other possibilities and why it is not so, all that also has to be understood in order for it to be a non-shaking knowledge. And the further complication is that because it's not a thing which is other than you, right? It is yourself. So that means your attitudes, your behaviors, your actions, everything also has to change. So that makes it even more complex. Plus our orientation, we want to know everything as an object because this is how we have known everything through perception and inference. We can't give up the orientation that I have to see something or I have to experience something. That also is a problem. So that means there are so many possible pitfalls. That's why one has to, they use an expression in the Upanishad. It's like walking on a, razor's edge. It's because you fall here and you're gone. Gone means it's not gone, but it takes you away from the reality. It takes you on a tangent.
I just thought about Swami Sudananda, for example. He was so with the knowledge, and there was something he for himself didn't really, confronted with himself.
See, I don't know. I mean, first of all, I don't know how much he knows. See, for anybody else with little knowledge, it may seem like he's talking. This is one thing also which is so true. That, I have, like we were all students and we were all studying together and we know a little bit, how much the person understands. We spent 3 years together and all. So some of the students are like so, nothing, their understanding was very basic. They could be very good human beings, but their understanding is not some. And we meet their students and oh, this teacher is so good. So that means for them, that person is good, very good. But for somebody else, that person is not the person who has, So sometimes, the universe provides. This is how the laws are. Universe connects you to the teacher that you need to be connected to. Maybe you have lessons to learn from that person, either positive or not so positive. But for the time that you are connected, you always feel, oh my God, this person is so great. And in fact, you need to feel like that. Only then you will, be with that person and then hopefully learn the lessons. You ask anybody, any fraud Swami, you ask his followers before the person was discovered. They all are like completely in awe. And they are not dumb people, they are intelligent people. But they all think, oh, he's so great, he's so great. Hey, what is great? So that means that to anybody, to their students, somebody seems like a wise person doesn't mean anything. Because the knowledge base from where we operate, that person may seem like a very wise person. This is why I told you that it is the wise person who recognizes other wise person. For a normal layman, anybody can pass out as a wise person. You grow a little bit beard, you talk a little, you learn a little Sanskrit, and then everybody, oh my God, Swamiji, and there you have it.
And use terms like bliss.
Yeah, then you will say, oh, Atma is bliss, and then you say, yeah, that's true, Atma is bliss. See, it's very easy to
Capture the imagination of the person.
exactly. So therefore, see, the understanding equation, you need a lot of grace of Ishvara. If you have not aligned with Ishvara in the basic level of dharma, I mean, the vision is very far away. Not possible. Not possible. This is why the whole teaching is, I was telling Pankaj, I said, don't think that I am teaching you some text. This is knowledge which comes from Ishvara. It is almost Ishvara talking to you through a person who hopefully knows, right? Telling you, this is my nature. Revealing to you, this is my nature, and ultimately you and me are one. This is knowledge from Ishvara. And you will only understand this knowledge if you align with Ishvara. Ishvara at all levels. Otherwise it's impossible. So if you have not aligned with Ishvara at the level of dharma, where is the question of understanding the final equation? It's a long way to go. You can be repeating things because you heard it and you have kind of, you pass it on. But it's not an easy thing. You need a lot of grace. A lot of grace, lot of integrity, lot of work, a lot of work. We think, yeah, it's just some kind of a thing, oh, I'll understand and then my life will be free. It is not like that. It is not like that. This is why this wise person is an exalted, it is a years and years and years of what? Alignment, thinking, making everything exact and making personal transformation. That's what then Ishvara blesses you with this knowledge. So therefore,
Question.
now I think by 5 verses I will be, but it's okay, doesn't matter. Tell me.
See, my true nature is Atma, and all the karmas are done by Jiva. And when the true knowledge comes, all the Sanchita karma of Jiva, the account gets closed.
Yes.
Now, who gets moksha? Atma or the Jiva?
The Jiva gets. See, the thing is that Atma
Atma
is
is
always
anyway-
free.
Atma is anyway awareness.
Atma is
why
never
should-
bound.
So if my nature is Atma, why should I bother about moksha? Because moksha that Jiva is going to get. So how am I connected to Jiva in the next birth? See, the Atma and Jiva, they make...
See, the thing is, Ishvara manifests in all different forms. The forms have ignorance. Because they have ignorance, they behave in the world as what?
An individual.
As individuals. And so that means, as long as you think you are an individual, you are bound by karma.
Right.
Even though Atma is always free, the form is bound by karma. And the form keeps taking different forms. So that
Then
means...
when that Jiva dies, the causal body takes a new birth.
No. Jiva is an entity
Which is
based on ignorance of
Yes.
I. See, you have to understand what I am talking about.
Yes.
Based on ignorance of I, that awareness that takes itself to be what? This limited entity.
Yes.
Limited to what? The physical body, the subtle body and the causal body. So now, as long as the ignorance is intact, that process will happen. Once the ignorance is gone, you know your true nature to be Atma, there is no coming back. So that means what makes the jiva entity comes because of ignorance. It is ignorance of which Swarupa of jiva is Atma. There are no two different things. You are making two different things. One is Atma and the other one is jiva. Hey, jiva Swarupa is Atma. And that is what the person doesn't know.
Jiva Swarupa
Is Atma. Jiva is, because of ignorance, one takes oneself to be this body. But actually, what is the true nature of I? The true nature is Atma. So when you remove the ignorance, then the jivatvam totally disintegrates. Jiva remains as long as there is ignorance. Once the ignorance goes, then only Atma is. Jiva was all along the Atma. All this is happening under the spell of ignorance. So that's why if you want to stop this, then you have to get rid of the ignorance. And know that I am not one entity, I am the whole.
So Atma is attached to Jiva. Can one say that? It's the same thing.
No, it's not attached to Jiva. See, okay, my God.
Or maybe next time.
Okay, no. See, Atma is attached to Jiva is not what it is. See, just this space, because of this confinement, it begins to think, I am only here. What is the reality of this space? It is always one non-divided space. So that means as long as you think that you are here, you are living as you are here and only this is your reality. If one day the wise person shows you that it seems to be that you are confined here, but you are actually this whole, and then what? This confinement becomes what? Only an as though confinement. It's not real.
But I always
So that
thought,
means when you live like this, you are a jiva. When you understand that, hey, this space is not here, it is everywhere, and this is Atma. It's already like that. You are freeing yourself from this imaginary confinement of ignorance.
because I always thought that the gross body, the subtle body dies, and the causal body comes out, takes a new birth, and from that Atma gets released. Or how Atma is connected to the body, that is still a bit confusing.
Atma is never connected to the body. See, Atma and the body have, as I explained to you, Satya-Mithya relationship. The body cannot exist without intelligence and awareness, but the intelligence and awareness is independent of the body. That's why I made that whole thing, no? The body is just a name for many different parts. Then that
all
no.
understood.
How is it all understood? If you understood, you will not ask this question. See, you can't tell me you understood this and you are still asking this question, how is body connected to Atma?
Only when it comes
Neema,
to moksha.
can we leave this for satsang?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be nice because it cannot become an individual, let's say, dialogue between two people. No?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Okay.
see what I'm saying, you register what I'm saying, otherwise what will happen is, you still operate from your understanding of body, your understanding, then some jiva, some atma, it's all, see, it's very important to understand. I showed you that the body has what? Dependent reality, and Atma is the very basis of that. So there are forms within forms within forms. These are all assemblages. And every assemblage is what? Done by Ishvara. Every time there are different forms, and then comes a body. Then also comes a subtle body. Then also comes what? The causal body. And
So every point is Ishvara only.
exactly.
Right.
So that means you are removing ignorance. Before you thought, I am the individual, you are here. Now you are understanding every point is Ishvara. And the truth of Ishvara is this awareness. Where is this entity? This entity is only till there is ignorance.
And it will continue to live like a jiva, but it is basically intelligence is basically Atma, it's basically
Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Yes. Yeah.
So the whole thing drops.
The whole thing, the ignorance drops. Because the ignorance goes, everything drops. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti